Hi everyone. Yesterday, the Commissioner of Baseball announced the formation of a group, a committee, that will look at why a stadium deal was not reached in Oakland and essentially determine if baseball is viable in the East Bay. Last Thursday, the Mayor's Sports and Entertainment Task Force, of which Chris DeBenedetti is chair, I'm a member, and several others, listened to a presentation by Bob Leste, who with Steve Lowe and Frank Dobson actually in 2004 proposed a type of baseball stadium at the current Coliseum location with retail. It's quite an exciting concept. So the purpose of this video is to show you that there not only have been plans out there, the original consulting plan of almost 10 years ago, but there is a current plan that yays really have never looked at. And I personally contend Major League Baseball has simply formed the rationale to either relocate the A's or perhaps contract them. But that's my opinion. That aside, here is the meeting. It's rather long. What you're going to see is approximately 60% of the meeting. And at the near the end is an actual PowerPoint turned move file of the presentation so that you can see the plan for yourself.
My name is Charles Johnson. I'm one of the co-conveners of the Entertainment Sports Task Force here in the Mayor's office. We're basically at the midpoint. We're in here with the sports side, in which they're trying to get a lot of great recommendations for the ballparks and also, for the owner of the A's. So, we're actually going to head over to our subcommittee, which is the entertainment side, and we just go from here, I guess.
Cool. All right, we'll be over there.
Okay, cool.
It's all good. Hey, Bob, welcome. Tell us, our viewers, about the presentation you're about to give us.
Well, Zenny, it's going to be pretty brief because it's gathered a lot of dust in the last 3 years.
And it should not have had it. It should have been done.
Right, it should have been done.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go at it and see if it makes some sense. I mean, I know it makes sense. It's just a matter of whether there's a will and a consensus to do it.
And the it is basically rebuilding the Coliseum.
Putting the A's stadium there, and then creating an entertainment venue, which would be very successful because it's one of the few venues today that actually could work because of the draw of that stadium and all the venues that are there. So and because of the unbelievable accessibility of that site. The accessibility of the site is unparalleled, maybe in the whole state of California.
Quite agree.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, and it's already established as a destination. So
yeah, but still every minor league.
This is almost a no-brainer if you find a way to fund this. And fortunately, we have a president right now who's trying to do this.
And we're also in a redevelopment area.
Creating, funds to do that, and we're in a redevelopment area, so we ought to be up and in front in terms of asking for those redevelopment funds to bring this together. Even during the Depression in '29, people went to baseball and they went to football and they went to entertainment venues like this because they served a relief valve for the society, for the culture. So it's more than just a matter of entertaining people or distracting them. It's a matter of providing something that is really going to be an amazingly successful destination for this community.
Let's get to it.
Okay, good.
The task force's core mission, as stated by Kelly Epstein, is how can professional and non-professional sports and entertainment endeavors best meet the needs of Oakland residents. And that might sound kind of broad or obvious, but it's every recommendation you make here, every idea you make, every question you ask, keep that with that in mind. Because again, we could talk for hours. We want to talk about things that we can recommend to the mayor and things that are attainable, things that are realistic. You definitely want to brainstorm, but keep that in mind. As I said, number 2, the Coliseum site is the best site. That's and then number 3, we decided, and the mayor, we applauded him for that letter to Bud Seeley, and it was a very visible, almost aggressive thing to do. We want him to be even more visible, more persistent, more aggressive. working with President Bruner and the rest of the city council. Those were the highlights of the report, but you'll see it when I email it to you guys if you haven't seen it already. With no further ado, Bob Leste is here to give us the presentation. So, Bob, if you could tell us a little bit briefly about yourself and dive right in. And we'll try to run the computer as well because we have some projection problems.
We don't have a projector on the screen, so we'll do it that way. I have a pretty vast background in retail and retail development. That's been my specialty for 35 years. So, and I've done major projects in Boston and Chicago and Washington, and primarily mixed-use projects, and a lot of regional shopping centers. When I was in the Bay Area originally, I worked for a developer by the name of A. Alfred Taubman, who developed Sun Valley, Stone Ridge, East Ridge, Southland. What else?
Must be something north.
It must be, no, in the neighborhood in Marin. But, and I was director of leasing for him, so I did primarily East Ridge and some work on Sun Valley and Stone Ridge. But, so that's going back to 1970, so over more years than most of you guys are. So, but in any case, the mixed-use projects, which is what we would call the Coliseum as a mixed-use project, are the most interesting because there is a diversity of uses that are blended and pulled together to create a draw and to create a destination, if you will. And mixed-use projects in Boston and Chicago were really large projects. They were in a magnitude of $600 million in the 80s. And Water Tower Place is a vertical shopping center. It's 8 levels inside shopping with a 29-story Ritz-Carlton hotel and a 44-story condominium. So it's one of the tallest concrete buildings in the world. So it has, and then it has a 5-level car park below. So it's a really interesting project. It has all these bells and whistles, and when I got involved, the retail wasn't leasing. It wasn't happening. So,
Which city was that again, please?
Chicago, North Michigan Avenue. And then we went on to do Copley Place in Boston, which was even more interesting. It was a air rights project over the Massachusetts Turnpike on a 9.5-acre site that was basically the interchange from Huntington Avenue down to the Mass Pike, and east and west. And in that case, we had 2 hotels, a 800 or 1,100 room Marriott, an 800 room Westin, Neiman Marcus, and originally Bonwood Teller, which fell out at the end, and we ended up with Tiffany on the other end of the project. But the most significant thing that happened in Back Bay, Boston, was that we created a link to Prudential Center, which had been there since the 60s. And Prudential has Saks Fifth Avenue and Lord & Taylor's, so it completed our mix in a way that we couldn't achieve within the project because of Bonwood not being there. And it's a very successful project. The retail sales are around $1,000 a square foot annually, so it's a very successful project. And the hotels bring in, obviously a lot of people, and by connecting it to Prudential Center, there's a circulation. The secret of good retailing is that you've got to have great pedestrian circulation, and you need great access to the site from a vehicular perspective, okay? So if you have that, you've got some givens that are pretty encouraging to promote retail traffic. Because the big secret to retail is not really a big secret. It's simply bodies. It's numbers of people. It's foot traffic.
Yeah.
And the more people that you've got on the sidewalk in front of you, the better from a retail perspective. And if the developer does that and brings the people, then it's up to the retailer to make it all work.
Right.
Well,
And-
just for those who don't understand sales per square foot, here in Oakland, we're doing at the square about $200 a square foot if they're lucky. $300 a square foot is considered pretty good.
That's
1,000 a square foot is way good.
yeah, is way good. And the projects, the Water Tower and Copley, both were given Urban Land Institute awards for excellence. So they did more than just provide a return for the developer. They created an anchor on North Michigan Avenue, in the case of Chicago, on North Michigan Avenue that it never had before. And it was really the genesis of the reclamation of North Michigan Avenue. And the first year that we opened Water Tower, the sales on Michigan Avenue doubled. People who were there were Saks Fifth Avenue, and it was a very Tony, upscale street. And a lot of the merchants felt like if we did this project, it would be the demise of Michigan Avenue. Not realizing that, in effect, what happened was that we became a destination for the suburbs. So people could come in from the suburbs and experience an urban experience in a way that they hadn't before, and they loved it. So it was a really spectacular success.
I'll pick up on that. You also got tourist traffic because it's right next to Hancock Center.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had huge tourist traffic.
I'm from Chicago.
And what happens, what's interesting is when people come in from the suburbs, they're like a tourist. I mean, we do the same thing. If we go to San Francisco, we're like a tourist. We're not just a shopper. We're like a tourist. It's a day or an evening out. So, and that's a different kind of attitude when shoppers are in that mode, because they're a little more relaxed and they're having fun. It's enjoyment. It's entertainment. So the thing that brought us to the Coliseum originally was the realization that the A's would be leaving, and the thing that the Coliseum has in common with some of the points that I just made is the unbelievable mobility of that site. I mean, you have rail, Amtrak, BART, an international airport, an interstate freeway that carries 250,000 cars a day in both directions. You have parking. You have great access. You have two different off-ramps where you can get into that complex. So it has enormous appeal from a vehicular circulation perspective in terms of access. It has great pedestrian access via public transportation. And so the original genesis of this idea was based on the fact that the city and the county had always been held hostage by the sports teams. And the idea was to create a venue that was such a strong destination that the sports teams would want to be there. It wouldn't have as much negotiating strength if this thing was functional, if it was really functioning as a destination to the fullest degree. And what good mixed use is about is really pulling together all of the uses so that it maximizes the property and it maximizes the return on investment, but it also maximizes the value of the property. That's the whole secret behind good real estate development. So multiple uses help you do that. The fact is that you've got two established uses here already that have already created this site as a destination. Everybody knows where this is in the Bay Area. I mean, whether you're in San Francisco, whether you're in Walnut Creek or Concord or wherever you are, you know, or San Jose, you know where this complex is and you know how to get there. And it's a matter of whether you choose to go to Fremont and take the BART, or you choose to do, public transportation, or take Amtrak, or come down from Sacramento, or whatever. But that accessibility is absolutely wonderful. It's phenomenal. And it provides a way for the largest number of people living in the Bay Area to get there, if they choose to go. So but the mission was originally, what can we do to create and add value so that the county and the city, the Alameda County and the city of Oakland, will not be held hostage by people like Al Davis who have been really tough on the city and on the county. They really extracted a lot of blood, and that has created a political situation where there's a lot of negative feelings about the public getting involved in stadiums. But one of the great experiences of everyone's experience, I think, has been going to a major league sports venue to see a major league team play either football or baseball or basketball. And when you have all three of those venues here, that's a powerful draw. So and given what's going on right now in the United States in terms of retail development, there's almost no demand for retail. I mean, there's already enough retail for everybody. I mean, except in downtown Oakland. But there is a lot of retail that's been developed in the last 15 years, and if we divide the total number of square feet of retail that's available by the number of citizens in the United States, it's something like 30 or 40 square feet per person that are available, versus in Europe something on the order of 10 or 12 square feet per person. So it's here. It's already developed.
How would you address the fact, though, that our suburbs already have everything we need? In Walnut Creek or Milpitas, you can go get your cheesecake through $1 million jewelry. They have all and everything in between. Why does Oakland need something that is already? I understand why we want it, but why do we need it?
Well, the difference is in Oakland, we don't really have a retail development. There's a good development in Emeryville that works, and that's basically where Oakland shops, or it goes to San Francisco. But it doesn't. We don't have any retail here. This isn't a shopping place. It used to be. Many years ago, it was great. In the 70s, it was fantastic. But it's gone. I mean, Broadway is done. So we worked on something in Uptown to try to bring that back, but it didn't materialize. So that's ancient history. But
Mount Davis, it took away that view of the hills that was so prominent. I was watching the Toronto Blue Jays A's '89 playoff and getting there on ESPN Classic, and it was just, it even made Oakland look bigger, that vastness. I remember watching that.
Right.
That's a selling point.
And
right
this could also house a hotel and some office. So you'd have a true mixed-use development.
Didn't they used to have a convention center under there at one point?
I think there's one under this. Exhibit hall underneath here.
It's never really used though.
But this is a very compact space.
Not prominently.
This also proposes that the bridge from BART would be upgraded significantly so that it's a pleasant experience rather than feeling like you're going through
flesh.
Well, right now, it's just a small bridge. What Frank had proposed, and you'll see on the presentation, is that he widens it maybe 10 times so that it's a concourse. So the minute you get off BART, you think you're in the Coliseum. Whereas when you get off BART now, you think, gee, I got to cross this bridge.
You got to do the labyrinth.
Icky.
It looks, I hate to say it, but it looks like you're going into, like you're walking into San Quentin or something with all the fences going like that.
Absolutely.
And there's cops at the front door.
Yeah, I mean,
do I really want to be here?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the image that we have to start killing.
No, I know. Well, I know.
We have to stop looking at it that way. With the negativity that's always kept projects like this from succeeding.
The fact that if you create the added value, okay, and it is a destination, and it's successful, you've added thousands of reasons for people to visit here that go beyond just the sports venues, because a lot of the time of the year the sports venues are neutral. There's no one there. They're not playing. I think the A's are only playing 81 games a year. And the same with the Raiders. I mean, they're 8 games, and even the Warriors, because they're on the road part of the time. So the idea of having an entertainment venue here, and why it's such an appeal and why it's a draw, is that you have you can pull the players into being part of it, okay? So that you can actually walk down the mall and see somebody, LeBron James or something. Okay?
Let me ask you, Mr. Leste, do you consider supermarkets and what have you, gourmet grocery stores and all that, is that part of retail too? You consider that retail too? Right?
That's retail, but I don't think that's what we would be doing here. We'd be doing more restaurants and those kind of venues. Maybe sporting goods store. Every team would have its own store. They'd have their brand store, which would be great.
Arizona has a good example of that for the Super Bowl. You know, the development right next to.
Arizona has. That's a great in Glendale.
It's called Westgate. Westgate.
Westgate, and it is a very successful project.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal project.
It
It's
sounds
a great.
much like Oakland, industrial and.
But it's actually a half a mile from the stadium where the Super Bowl was played. Okay, 2 years ago, and so we're here. I mean, this is like the epicenter of every kind of activity you can imagine, and everybody would have the ability, including the parking, to come into the project through the project and go into these various venues that way. Sometimes.
Let's run this show.
Okay. D group. And the background is Oakland Commerce Corporation, Coliseum Commerce Center Advisory. Gives you kind of a context. That's an overview of the existing conditions with the arena and the Coliseum. The Coliseum was, I think, originally built in 66. Yeah. And Skidmore was.
This is the plan that was shown to us at the task force on screen. It consists of building a stadium, of course, in Oakland, at the existing Coliseum grounds. The presentation emphasizes the transportation hub aspect of the Coliseum, served by Coliseum BART Station, the planned BART Airport Connector, not built, of course, the Amtrak Capital Corridor Station, AC Transit, the Interstate 880 Freeway. It's in the emerging urban context. We have planned Hope 6 housing, a Coliseum Transit Village, Coliseum Airport commercial development, and a reimagined San Leandro Boulevard. New area developments are on the other side of the freeway. The concept itself calls for a new ballpark at the south end of the stadium and new parking structures at the north end, north parking lot area, a new promenade, and of course the red zone, which is retail. This is what the red zone will look like according to the developers and the artists. And another idea. And that's the ballpark itself. Now, where's the money? I'm not going to try to explain the financing the developers developed. This is 5 years old. It needs to be upgraded. The developers have said that. They're looking at right now $340 million for the stadium. That needs to be $390 million. All the costs need to be increased and adjusted. They agree that this is the case, and they imagine or estimate approximately $5 million to the Joint Powers Authority. But all the costs are here for you to look at. You can slow this down and analyze it at your leisure. The bottom line is that there is a plan here, something that we can work with. And the best part the developers say is we can start tomorrow. All right, what did you guys think of the meeting?
I thought the meeting was very productive. I want to thank Mr. Leste for coming in and giving us the first real visual look at what the possibilities could be in 4 or 5 years here in Oakland. And I think that it's a very visionary project, and one that the citizens of Oakland are going to embrace, because it has a lot of what the citizens of Oakland want. And so it was a great meeting.
What did you think of the meeting?
I thought it was a great meeting. I thought it was a really good meeting. There was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of input. There's still a lot of work to do to pull it all together and update it and get it in a form that really can get out there.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.